More stories from the front lines of franchising today. We are talking about Pure Green. Coming up next. All right, Ross. Question one is how I always kick it off, and I always feel so boring asking it, but I think it creates a lot of good dialogue. So what's your franchise story? How did you accidentally fall into franchising?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, thanks so much for having me on, and I'll tell you my story. So I started Pure Green back in 2014 in New York City, one of the most competitive cities in the world. And my background is in fitness. I used to own my own health club, sold it, started a consulting company, and opened up high-end health clubs all over the United States. Got into specialty boutique fitness studios, yoga studios, finally juice bars, and came to the realization that when you look at optimal health, 80% of getting people results is weighted in nutrition. And that became the foundation for starting Pure Green. We formulated all of our products to have unparalleled taste and the highest levels of nutrition.
How long in between starting the business and franchising? How long went in between those two?
So quite a bit of time, actually, from starting the company in 2014, we actually didn't start franchising until more recently in 2020 when COVID first hit.
Was it in the original business plan to franchise, or does it happen over time organically?
So it wasn't in the original business plan. We started with brick and mortar, our own company stores in 2014. 2016, I started the wholesale division of the company. And we used water pressure and a technique called HPP, high pressure processing, that locked in the nutrition of our cold pressed juice, gave it a 60 plus day shelf life from the point that it's manufactured. It opened up the floodgates for wholesale. And so you fast forward to today, the wholesale side of our business, we work with over 50 professional sports teams, high-end hotels, 30 college teams, and many other premier accounts. And, with franchising, what we realized was that we have distribution all over the United States. We looked at the competitors out there, and a lot of them were building juice manufacturing facilities in their stores. So they're taking larger square footage footprints. And we realized we have a disruptive advantage. We could sell our franchisees at cost, our cold pressed juice and shots, take that out of the equation. So we did that. We have a very small footprint. Our store size is about as small as 500 square feet up to 1,200, 1,300 square feet. And as a result, we are scaling fast.
Okay, so another thing I hear in your opening statement is I built gyms or fitness concepts and I sold them. And you're a young guy. We're about the same age, but you've held on to this thing now for almost 10 years. Doesn't that go out of line with you as an entrepreneur of build and sell and exit?
For me, and our mission at Pure Green, our mission is to build healthier communities around the globe by connecting people with superfoods. The way that I look at the world is that I believe that the United States alone can support 1,000 units. And so I'm less focused with an exit, working with institutional partners and exiting. I want to stay in this thing so that we can actually execute our vision to get to 1,000 units open and eventually go international as well and really look to achieve our mission.
How many are open right now?
Right now we have about 40 open, 40 in construction, and the rest in site selection. So about 110 units total.
And how many of those are corporate?
9 of them are company stores.
Right. I like that. I mean, like ultimately, and I would always advise a 1-to-4 ratio, whether you keep that long term or not. Cash flows the business. It gives you the opportunity to test and trial things before spitting it out to the franchise community. And, going from 40 open with 40 in development, like that's going to give you a tremendous lift. But it's going to be a different type of pressure that at least operating the corporate stores is going to give you some groundwork to understand what it's like to have a multiple unit portfolio. So I think that's a smart move. So now that you've perfected this widget of franchising, because you've figured it out, you got to have a great vision. You talk about culture on your website. When we've talked with franchisees, after they've bought, we say, what are the 2 things that push you over the edge? And it's the business model and it's the culture. So you've nailed both of those. Now you're figuring out scale. when you think about what you've constructed here, could you have done the same thing in fitness, knowing if you knew then what you know now?
With fitness and especially the gyms I was working with, a lot of them were like 30,000 square feet, 40,000 square
Yeah.
feet. There's, so many complexities. You got membership sales, operations, 40, 50 personal trainers. These are massive operations. And so scaling a business like that, and then especially you had the explosion of these specialty boutique gyms that are a fraction of the size that, we're competing with the bigger box gyms. When you compare that to Pure Green, which is a streamlined model, we're doing superfood smoothies, acai bowls, cold pressed juice, really easy to execute systems and processes. We train our franchisees everything that they need to know. We make them experts in the products, and our systems are so streamlined that they don't need a background in previous experience working in a restaurant, QSR operations. They don't need any of that. I feel like with big box fitness, especially, you can't do that. It's a much higher barrier to entry. You need the gym experience. And so it's much more difficult to scale a business like that. So I feel with a much smaller footprint, and easy to operate business, and plus one where we're attracting people that share and are aligned with our mission of building healthier communities around the globe, and they have the passion. So I feel that is key to scalability.
I see the culture, I see the entrepreneurial side, I see the business mindset. When you go into franchising, now that you have 31 franchisee operated locations, what has surprised you about working with others that maybe you didn't think through when you decided to go into franchising? And I mean it on a more of a negative way, which will swing into the positive side, but because you're obviously a positive guy. It comes across in all your videos and how we're talking right now. But what has maybe surprised or disappointed you about franchising that now you're working to overcome?
I think when you look at like successful locations, there's two criteria. One is a very successful, is a very we call it a home run location. It's just massive amounts of high volume traffic, and those are the only ones that we approve to be pure grains. That's one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is the operator. And what we found is that hands-on operators are absolutely the best. And the hands-on operator paired with a home run location, that is going to be a massively successful pure green location. What we found though is that when you have operators, there's a lot of interest from potential franchisees that want to be absentee or semi-absentee. And so what we find is that when the operator is not hands-on in the business, we found it to be is the first 90 days are absolutely crucial to building the culture in the store, absolutely crucial to how quickly that store ramps up. What we found is that when you have an absentee owner, even if it's a home run location, it's still going to do well, but it's not going to maximize the potential. And we want all our locations, as soon as they open, and we just opened up one in Portland, Oregon this weekend, and it was the franchise partner is extremely involved, extremely hands-on, huge in building the community, having DJs promote. She just like absolutely crushed it. One of our best openings ever. And then when you have an absentee owner who's not executing the marketing playbook, who's not on site at the store, who's just hiring team members to run the store, it's not the same experience, and it's not as good for the brand. So for us, it's all about the right people. And what we look for are people that really share our passion, that are aligned with our mission, and that want to be hands-on operators, especially for the first 90 days, absolutely critical.
Has that changed the way that you're qualifying candidates now that you have that insight? And obviously to get to that insight means someone came in through the discovery process, convinced you we're a cultural match. You obviously approved them, and they get in, they're like, well, I don't want to be in the store every day, or I don't want to operate it as heavily as you recommended. Does that now tweak the way that you're approaching approvals?
Absolutely. I think when a lot of franchisors start out, like they're really excited when they get their first, franchisees to come in and sign up, they're overly eager. We've been approached by a lot of big groups that want to come in and they want to commit to, multiple units at the onset, 5 units, 10 units, 20 units. And what we've learned is we're very hesitant about that because we don't know who we're getting. We don't know if this is a group that is going to be hands-on, is going to be in the trenches, is going to adopt our standards of hospitality, and is going to be hands-on operators until they open their first unit. So we like to take the approach of, hey, come on in, let's get your first unit open. Let's get you to profitability right away. Let's make sure you're hands-on. And then, hey, let's use the profits of that store and go on and do the next. We like that approach a lot more than Zors who have these, big groups coming in, big development schedules. And what we find in the industry is that, a lot of them don't actually manifest and come in and say what they're going to do and adhere to the development schedules they put together.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, obviously I was looking at your website, and I would recommend, it's almost like this number, 100 plus in development. I would almost change that number to just celebrate how many human beings you've entered into the business. Like, I will always recommend that a franchisor qualifies their candidate to be able to open up 3. It doesn't mean you award them 3 units on day one. You're more so looking at their cash flow, or what is their cash flow history, so that they don't get stressed out by opening up that unit. Then on the key performance indicators that can come alongside you as an operator, now we will award you more locations, which it seems like you're adopting to be more like that than maybe in the early stages where you have everybody, throwing a check at you. And I'll tell you, like, step one in franchise, like if I want to call out brands that have the ability to have skyrocketing growth, it starts with the branding. The brands that have nailed the branding end up winning. Like, the unit level economics end up being deeply important, which you can see them on your site. But because you nailed the branding, that changes the degree of who wants in. They see that you've perfected something, as simple as it may be, but they want in. So the knocking on the door, I would imagine, is not ever going to be your issue. It's going to be approving and making sure you don't have one pulled over on you in the approval process.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think there's a lot of deception in the franchise industry. There's a lot of emerging brands out there, young brands claiming to, show hundreds of units. And it's really just like big development schedules that never manifest. So totally with you on that number. The way I kind of define that is I wouldn't necessarily say, it should be just based on each franchisee, because we have franchisees that have multiple units that are open. Uh-huh. But we have, the way I kind of look at that number is, franchisees that have come in, that have stores open, and that are in the site selection process and have signed leases. Like, I think that is a more fair way to kind of look at that number.
Yeah, I think that's a good route, and that's where I heard 40 is what you really have. That
40 open, right? But we have
40 to open,
40 in construction. Right? So that's 80. And then we have a bunch of signed leases beyond that.
Okay, yeah, then that's a fair number.
And then a ton in site selection that are about to sign leases.
I mean, and I'll say this because I have the opportunity to give you feedback.
Please.
Your story's great, man. I've always felt that brands don't sell brands, people do. And so if I bought your business today, one, I would add people to the concept. You have all these franchisees too. Don't sell me on an empty building. Show me it packed with people. Like, you have all the right tools. I also, when I land on a website, I look for a why you, why now. Own your future with Pure Green is not a mission. What you said at the opening of this conversation, like, we feel that there's 1,000 stores in the United States because we're on a mission to make people healthier. And then we see the rest of the world as an opportunity as well. Like, be forward with it, because that's going to motivate the right people in. Because then, if I want to follow your blueprint at 9 corporate locations, I can see right personality, hands-on. Like, this was not an overnight success. 2014, this took some time to marinate. And then this is how we scaled it to be a large multi-unit operator within our system. So in my opinion, not that you don't have a sales issue, you're selling just fine. But if you want to accelerate or enhance the way you get to that 1,000, I would sell through you and your story, because those bumps and bruises is what I would pay for,
I love that. Love your feedback. Totally agree with you that we need to add a lot more people. And we're actually doing that. We're adding just some success stories from some of our franchisees. We're starting to integrate that on the website. We're actually revamping the website to a new site. And so thank you for that feedback. I'm definitely going to integrate that into the new site.
What keeps you up at night?
I would say that keeps me up at night is really just making sure our franchisees are massively successful. And we really care about our franchisees. We look to maximize profitability for our franchisees. We actually call them franchise partners, and we really just want them to be massively successful. And so as we grow and as we scale, we are hiring. We're in a big hiring spree right now. We're hiring a massive amount of infrastructure to better support our franchisees, and we're growing fast. We're signing anywhere from 7 to 10 new franchisees on per month, and we need to hire massive amount of support players to keep up with that growth. So that's really what keeps me up at night.
I mean, look, that's your ticket. Like if you're revamping your website, listen, you can just play this back and know the insights. Oftentimes it's we overlook it. We look at branding or we look at the positioning and we just say, here's our franchise development website. What you just said is that we're trying to hire at a pace to make sure that we're ensuring the success of our franchise partners is a huge statement. That alone, if someone's looking at you versus another brand in the space, or more likely a similar type investment, because that's what I'm going to look at. I'm going to say, here's what I can afford, or here's what I'm comfortable affording. Who's in that space? The things you just said helps create a point of differentiation for you, and I would scream that from the rooftops. I think it's a great story.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, are you cautiously enthusiastic about the 40 that are in construction right now? Does that scare you? Because you're going back to massive franchisee success as a vision. Does it scare you a little bit? I mean, it's maybe a little bit uncomfortable knowing that you'll get through it, but to have 40 on the books is going to be a big lift year for you next year.
It really inspires me more than anything. I mean, we opened up just in the past week and a half, 2 locations, each one doing better than the next, and just having, the one opened a week and a half ago, just beat the best opening day. One that opened this weekend, just beat that. So, I mean, our locations are just like getting better and better as far as how quickly they ramp up, which is massive lines out the door. So knowing that, we have so many in the pipeline and, opening up about 4 or 5 new stores per month, it's really inspiring.
Awesome. All right, Ross, let's close with this. There's a candidate that's been watching this video. They're a ghost. Maybe they've been to your website, maybe they haven't. What else do you want them to know about the opportunity?
I would just say that if you're passionate about health and wellness, if you feel alignment with our mission, then take a closer look at Pure Green. Would love to chat with you.
Love it. For Ross, I'm Nick. That's another episode of Meet the Zor. Be sure to click subscribe. I always miss that part, but looking forward to see where the story goes, Ross. I think you have a nice runway ahead of you, and look forward to seeing where the story goes.
Thanks, Nick.
Take care.